Oh, it's still there.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. I didn't mean to do that live. Oh, here we go.
Well, we can tell them. Good evening, and welcome to the OmniDog and OmniCat review show. We're a little bit late because of me. I was ferociously ordering a Batman animated soundtrack online. I got a note about it 5 minutes before 5 that it was live, and I already missed it this morning on a place. But then these guys, shout out to Beto Rios for finding it for me again and alerting me. It's I think it's what did I order? Let's see. It's the animated. It's the soundtrack to the.
You don't even know.
I do, but I can't remember what they called it. Heart of Batman soundtrack. I think it is the soundtrack to the Hush movie.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's worth it.
Yeah.
Is it colors?
Oh, purple, green, white vinyl.
Yeah.
And a 12 by 12 booklet of artwork.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm excited about that. So yeah, that's why I'm late. So I apologize. And then Kristen was just on. Yeah, Heart of Batman soundtrack is what I bought. And Kristen just bought. Now, did you go to GameStop and they still had this Ein?
I didn't just buy it. I was checking right when we went on air, but it's still on there. So
because I need to tell Tyler that.
Still there.
Okay, let me just a sec, everybody. We're trying to get all these collectibles that we thought. I thought this one was out of stock.
Maybe they put more up. That tends to happen.
Okay, is it a flocked Ein and everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking at it now. $30 shirt and pop. It's a good deal.
Okay, this should make him feel better.
I'm going to see if it's at my local store. Because nobody got time to wait. Just kidding. We have all the time in the world, don't we?
Okay.
Riveting show.
I know, sorry, everybody, but I had to tell Tyler Blunt that he could still get this Ed and Ein shirt in the blocked pop of Ein at GameStop, because I thought they were all sold out back when I ordered them, and I can't remember. Yeah, I did open the box, Bobby Keating. This is what was in it, and I decided I needed to wear the shirt. So,
it's a good shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, I liked your shirt too.
Oh yeah, you can still get this Marvel hoodie at your local Target. It's still in stock.
Nice.
I mean, I do like, look, that's pretty cute, right?
Oh, whoa, I didn't know it had sleeve.
Yeah. You don't see a lot of sleeve prints these days, but
no.
So I needed it.
Okay, so, all right, now we're all, this is all my responsibility because I had to get that album, and then I had to tell Tyler about the Ein and stuff. It's all about collectibles, and
we need everything. That's what it is. We need everything.
And then they put time limits on it, and it makes it worse.
Yeah.
Then that's what makes everybody freak out the most.
That's how they sell stuff. We know that every Tuesday, don't we? That's how they sell stuff. They scare us all.
Mondo's the worst for that kind of thing. I mean, I've only gotten a couple posters in my life because so many bots go on there and get them. But I have a couple of posters. Bobby Keating says your sleeves are cool, Kristen.
Oh, thank you. I like them.
Yeah.
And it's like freezing here now. So I'm like, oh, just yesterday it was 80 and now it's 50.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
It's still warm here. I wonder if we're going to be getting your cold front or whatever comes up from hurricane, whatever is now in the Gulf. Is there any hurricanes around?
Probably. It's like they're always there now.
Yeah, it seems that way. Lloyd's got the right idea. It really is a community sharing info about collectibles. And I will also say this, everybody loves to spend my money. That's definitely true. They get a huge kick out of it. So we are talking about 3 series, 3 books, 1 multi-part series, and the most important book, I think, is this one, because Omar Reyes Jr. has no clue what Kent State is, so he's interested to hear about that. And to me, that's the most important book we read. As fun as Lady Mechanica is, and as horrifying, and I'm going to save it for last, Lolo Woods, because I'm going to want to really know your opinion is, especially on Lolo Woods. But Kent State was huge. I was kind of too young. This is what it looks like. I read it on Hoopla.
And I have the book. So
oh, you have the book.
This is Reed's bookmark. So I can show some art if you'd like.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's fine.
This is a nice big book too. I don't have a. See, do you have an average trade around me? Here's an oversized trade. So it's still quite big. It's not quite. It's still oversized, but not quite an average oversized. Like this is a DC trade behind here. So it's nice and wide and big. Let me take off this dust jacket too, because what a nice under the dust jacket image. Of all the protesters, and on the back.
Right. What they had to deal with. The book's important because it shows that, I guess, history can repeat itself if we're not careful. It is military, Omar. It's about Kent State in 1970. I was 11 years old. May of 1970, right? Here, let me put that. And the war in Vietnam was hot and heavy. And Nixon had just invaded Cambodia. And there were a lot of students all over the country because of the draft. Lots of students were protesting. It's not like it wasn't back then. It wasn't like the all volunteer army we have now, where you could go and do it for a job. You got a draft number, and if you got a low draft number, you got drafted and sent to Vietnam. And nobody. It
was called a draft lottery, right?
Yeah, they had a draft lottery back then, and it was televised, and you would watch to make sure your number wasn't picked. And
it's horrifying.
If your number was picked, you got sent to Vietnam. My brother, who's older than I am, rather than getting drafted, enlisted in the Air Force ahead of time, and so he got to choose what he wanted to do, and he ended up being in radio broadcasting in not Taiwan, the country that's China, the little China below big China. What is that? Now I'm blanking on the name of a whole country.
That's good enough.
Not Taiwan, it's not Taipei. Taipei might be the capital. Wherever he got stationed there, so he didn't have to fight in Vietnam. And so all over the country, these college-age kids were the ones that were getting drafted and getting killed over in Vietnam over a war that was extremely unpopular. It was extremely unpopular, and a lot of, just kids died, and over in Vietnam. And so there were lots of sit-ins and protests at college, and kids were angry. And these are like 18, 20-year-old kids, and they were angry about having to be drafted. And it was also a time when there was equal number of angry African Americans that at that same age that were tired of the slowness of being recognized as civil rights, being recognized as equal, and so they were also having protests. And they would call in, because there was so much unrest, these governors would call in the National Guard to try and enforce order. And in Kent State, the National Guard turned their weapons on unarmed students and killed 4 of them and wounded like 11 of them. And so Neil Young wrote a song about it called Ohio that he sang with Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And that was in 1970 under Nixon, and it got completely whitewashed. This book does an excellent job of the research that the author did, Durf, finding out that no one was held responsible, no one was held accountable, and these kids were just shot dead for protesting. I don't think, Omar, that any liberties were taken in the telling of the story. If you look at the bibliography and where he sourced his material, he interviewed hundreds of people that were eyewitnesses.
Yeah, he even says at the beginning, this book is dramatic recreation, but all of it is based on eyewitness accounts, detailed research, and investigation. The notes on the back of the book list the source material for every scene. And it's so true. There are such detailed, tons and tons of these notes in the back. Tons. Yeah. He does not leave anything out. Of course, with any nonfiction retelling like this, there's some sort of liberties. You don't know exactly what was said, oftentimes. You have to tell a story, right? But this was all based on interviews he did, all the research he did. He sources everything. It's crazy detailed and very, very
And there have been tons of books written about this. It was live broadcast. There was tons of TV networks there that were there because there was such a military presence there. There were tons of local and national news cameras, news teams there, and it was huge national news for a long time. And so there's really not much of a chance there's any liberties taken with any of this because it's all prior knowledge. He just put it in graphic novel form. But it's outrageous in the fact that it happened, and it reminds me of this past spring when the president had all the protesters gassed outside the White House so he could have a picture of himself and the Bible taken in front of this church for no reason. I'm not going to get into a pro or con Trump thing, but you get to the point where you ask, is it okay to protest, or have we turned into a police state?
I think that was the hardest thing, reading this in the year 2020 and seeing the same thing happen, where there are completely innocent protesters just sitting in the streets or just standing there innocently protesting, as we have the right to do. And then all of a sudden they are tear gassed and all of these things are happening. This was so brutal. I knew the story, but I didn't know the kinds of horrific, specifically told kind of stories with everyone that you get to see in here. Everyone who got killed was at least 100 feet away from the bullets.
They weren't even necessarily part of the protest. A lot of them were just students going to class.
Yeah.
There were still classes going on. Or running away from everything.
And the fact that no one has still at all been like, no one's taken the blame for this. Everyone's like pointing fingers to other people. Like, there's been no one person who has been, well, definitely not charged, but it's like it never happened. Really, it was kind of just swept under the rug.
Yeah.
And no one, like, all these kids died, and no one really is put to blame for it. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, you had an administration that didn't want anybody. Not only didn't want anybody to be culpable, but they thought that it would probably be a good thing if a few protesters were killed to send a message.
Well, and that leads me to the one-page epilogue, which this is a true story. So I don't know that this is a spoiler, right? But
Right.
I don't know about you, but the epilogue kind of was just a nice punch in the gut after everything I read, right?
The thing about Nixon?
Yeah, what Nixon said.
Well, and he had all his stuff taped, so it was taken right off of his tapes.
Right.
In his conversation with Haldeman.
That's horrific. It's just horrific.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is, there's no one particular perspective, Omar Reyes. This is history, how it happened, and just put in graphic novel form. There's no way to look at this other than a tragedy that did not need to happen at all. That these were just innocent kids who had, at the most, rocks, and then the military came in with tanks and automatic weapons. And the National Guard are not necessarily, it did paint it in the book that they are not necessarily trained soldiers. They are kind of weekend warriors. They didn't have any training in how to handle protest situations. If you were in the National Guard at that time, it was so you didn't have to go to Vietnam. And so this book is incredibly timely and incredibly frustrating, and it angered me and frustrated me and reminded me of what it was like back in like 68 through 70. It was I just had almost forgotten how tumultuous 68, 69, and 70 were in this country, because mostly because I was a little kid. This came out this year, right?
Yeah, pretty recent.
Yeah.
The last few weeks.
So, and it just reminded me of what's been happening, what I think is happening currently out in the streets now with protesters and with supposed law and order president that is trying to put fear into people, and he's got his own militias, and it seems to be okay for these people with guns to I don't know how. I don't want to get into the militia thing, although I find it incredibly scary that there are just citizens with guns out there, and it's okay for them to be packing weapons during protests, and it's okay to carry weapons in there, and they're not seen as the danger. The danger is a group of protesters. I don't get that.
Yeah, I do want to show off. Reed and I have a sketched and signed copy. That's pretty cool.
Oh, and those are some badass specs you're wearing now. You got some new glasses?
That's where I was, yeah. I'm in that period of like, they feel wrong.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my prescription changed and I'm like feeling weird and kind of sick, and I'm hoping it's fine. But that's the period I'm in right now. But anyway, you could still get these on Durf's website, signed and sketched.
Nice.
So if that's something you want, you can get.
So I think it's an important book. It's an important piece of American history. It's a shocking piece of American history, and the more educated people can be about it, the better, because then they would realize how close we are to having it happen again, I think.
I 100% agree. And this is on Hoopla, which is how you read it. So if anyone has Hoopla, you can check it out.
And so we also read a couple other books. Did you recommend Lady Mechanica because you wanted to read her?
Yeah, you mentioned it. I guess the new one coming out. And I was like, oh, I need to read that. I'll read it with you. And you're like, I'll reread it or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I hadn't read it. I've heard you talk about it for a long time. So I wanted to check it out. And I'm glad I did.
Oh, you are? Good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm highly interested in hearing your thoughts about it. What we read? Wait, we were supposed to read 1 through 4, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because Hoopla doesn't have some of them. But I'm waiting for them to come back. I will say, so I jumped into this. This is I know everybody probably knows from me talking about it, but the lead in this is Lady Mechanica. It's all of her limbs, right? Her arms and her legs are mechanical.
Yeah, and her eyesight, her eyes.
Right. She's got like demon eyes.
Right.
Red demon eyes. So it's really about her and this world they live in, which is the city of Mechanica. Is that right?
Mechanical city, I think.
Okay.
It's like it's like a mechanical London.
Yeah, it's all steampunky.
Oh, super steampunky.
Super so steampunky. Cool. So I'll start it out by there's so many shots of her upper regions.
Of her what?
Of her upper regions. We'll call them. So many shots. Yeah, in the first one that I was like, oh, this is a bit cheesy and kind of ridiculous. But I still like the first story a lot. I can't remember what the first one was now.
They are... let's see, I just read it.
I read it recently too, and I'm like, I don't remember.
I know, but I read all of them. Like they're looking. They're always looking into. Oh, okay. A young woman was captured from the circus.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And because somebody's experimenting with her blood, and there's always some kind of supernatural element or cybernetic element to everything, and Lady Mechanica's got all these get-ups she gets into that. She's a really good shot. She's really good with firearms. She's good at fighting. She's got enhanced capabilities because of all of her mechanical upgrades. And Joe Benitez is a fantastic artist. I guess somebody that followed 90s comics, maybe that's where he got popular. I didn't know about him until Lady Mechanica. But I think he was maybe one of those guys that was a Top Cow artist or something.
I can 100% see that.
Yeah.
In the way he draws breasts and butts. Because her breasts and butts were always very prominent. Also,
yeah.
like, it's funny. He is a great, like, I like the art. But there were so many shots of, like, a group of people, like, posing.
Yeah.
And every time I laughed, because it was kind of cheesy and just there, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was kind of funny. So that made me laugh every time. But yeah, there's always a mystery. I'd say the volumes are pretty standalone, other than there is a constant theme of like, she doesn't really know like what happened to her or like how it happened, other than her limbs were cut off and made mechanical. So she doesn't remember a lot of her background and like how she became who she is. And that's kind of the constant mystery I'm seeing. I don't know if you're to the point where that's been explained yet.
Sorry?
Do you know like her background yet? No, okay. So that's the constant mystery I'm finding.
Yeah.
Other than that, they're kind of standalone mysteries throughout each volume, and she's very detective about it and can kick butt because of her mechanical limbs, and I like that.
And she doesn't like to be touched. Like if you touch her at all, like a doctor. She asked the doctor what the differences were between like a woman found that was similar to her and what the differences were between Lady Mechanica and this woman. And he reached out to like touch her skin, and he was saying like her skin wasn't quite as soft as yours, and she like boom immediately thwacked him, and you can't get too close to her because she's she won't. She's not intimate at all with anyone. She's not flirtatious at all, and nobody's flirtatious with her. It's very much an adventure book. There's except for all the gratuitous breast holes in it that Kristen pointed out, which I can't deny. Just the art is fantastic, but I love the excitement of the stories and how adventurous they are and where they go and who they encounter and the mysteries and everything that they explore. And they get into a lot of historical stuff with like wait a minute, what was it? The third volume was the Clockwork Assassin and the Boys of Lost West Abbey. So this was 2 stories.
That was great.
3.
Yeah.
Because
we think for a while that she's just out killing people, and
right.
I'm like, what's happening?
She's always got like, this is her in her dreams. She's always got these dreams of waking up from the operation where she was changed into the mechanical robot cyborg type thing that she is now. And she has not an assistant, but a guy that works with her, like Mr. Lewis, who's an inventor. He's like a drunken inventor. And I just love the relationship. It's a cold but sort of comforting relationship between the two of them. They sort of need each other in sort of a weird way. And I always think that that the detective, the handsome detective, is going to make a play for her, but he never does. I guess he knows better than to make a play for Lady Mechanica.
That is one aspect I really like about it too. Like, you're not burdened by some silly romance plot. You know, she's just cool and she's who she is and she doesn't need some dude, right? So that's kind of nice too. Yeah.
Now, what did you think of all the... primarily, she had an awful lot of female antagonists too. Not necessarily men, but there were a lot of women that if they didn't head up their own business, they were maybe co-created with Mechanica, or they were they're similar to her, or they're kind of land pirates or something. There are plenty of women antagonists in this book, which I thought was interesting, because it's not like she's going up against men all the time. She's often going up against other powerful women.
That's also cool and also weird. It's something that we don't see a lot, right?
Yeah.
I loved the plot with Winifred, the girl.
Yeah.
I really like that story too. Who was how did she know her again? Like, She blame herself for her parents dying?
Yeah, that's Mr. Lewis. Wait a minute. That's Mr. Lewis's niece.
That's right.
Yeah. And let's see, what was that? Oh, that was in book 2, The Tablet of Destinies. I think, yeah, where they uncovered this fabulous weapon, and she gets helped by a woman warrior from a tribe in the desert, which I thought was interesting. That she was helped by that tribe of warriors right in the middle of the desert. They were anti-slavers. The tribe was.
Yeah, that main woman in the tribe, she was so cool. I loved her. I want her to come back. She was awesome.
Yeah. Here she is. So that was interesting. She was another strong, powerful woman because Mechanica and Winifred helped rescue their little sister from becoming captured by slavers. And this led to another adventure deep in the heart of the jungle in Africa, where they were trying to uncover the Tablet of Destinies. And here's another evil woman who was, I won't say what she was because that would spoil the surprise, but she's another evil female antagonist. And yeah, there is a lot of cheesecake in it, but I just love the art and the adventures and just how fun it was.
It is super fun. Those are just things that I immediately noticed. You know, the posing and like the breasticles, but but yeah, it was really fun. I think fans of like just straight mystery shows and even like it's very Sherlock Holmes in a sense, because they were standalone fun mysteries. And I'm interested to know like what happened to her, why, who made her. That's a constant question throughout everything.
I'm trying to find one of those panels where somebody's introduced and they're standing there like in the early Image days.
Yeah, the circus did that really well with like a group of them, and they're all like, there's always that side stander, you know, like looking like
I think I got this from his website, Volume 1, because it came with a drawing.
It's a good sketch.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find what you're talking about. It is.
I laughed every time.
Oh yeah, let's see.
Like no one stands like that.
Okay, wait. This is where the circus is. So let's see if I can find. Here it is.
There we go.
This is how they're introduced.
There's the side stander.
Yeah. Side stander with a big beak nose guy, tall guy there.
Yeah.
And that was just the second one for the circus. There was somebody. Here's another one.
Oh yeah. That's right.
They were introduced.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was some Image training that, or Top Cow or some training that he got.
Definitely see Top Cow. I didn't even think about that. That makes total sense.
So we both liked Lady Mechanica. I'm really happy that you enjoyed it. That makes me happy.
Definitely.
Because I knew that there was some gratuitous stuff in there, but I had hoped that everything else would overcome it, and it did.
Yeah, it's one of those. If you can get past those things, if you're stuck by those things, then whatever. Like you can't get past it, right? But yeah, I just laughed along with it. If you can laugh along with it, then it's like, okay, there's some good stuff here.
Yeah. And then the last book is the Low Woods, which is a Joe Hill House comic.
Oh, it's got that like nice
vellum thing.
Nice. Yeah. Whatever they're called.
Like cover that opens up to a cool.
I think that's Jen Bartel, isn't it? I think it is.
Is it? Let's see. Did she do the front cover too?
I think that was a variant in the back that she did.
Oh, okay. Cover artist. Well, I see two cover artists. Sam Wolf Connolly, cover artist. J.W. Cooper. I don't know. You're probably right. I don't know. It does look like Jen Bartel, though.
Yeah, those eyes.
Yeah.
Just this.
So, this book I was warned about after my last episode with you, my last tirade.
With User?
With User, the book User. Because I felt User, and you felt the same way, that User... now, this is a horror book, so there's all kinds of weird horror stuff happening in this book. But I was warned because sexual assault was in this book, and in User, it was the issue that I don't want to go over it again, but our issue was that it was almost like an approved of sexual assault. Like the father and sister were just not even paying attention to the little sister getting raped. And so somebody said, "You're reading Lolo Woods, just be aware that it plays a part." And the whole book is about that. The whole book is about the sexual assault of the women in this town of Shudder to Think. There's lots of other creepy, weird stuff like deers with human heads and
skinless guys in the woods.
Skinless guys, yeah. But there's a larger issue here, is that a lot of women wake up with no memory of what's happened to them, and in different places than where they remember being. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody what happens to them, because that's the big part of the story. What did you think of this book?
What did you think of this book? I need to know what you thought of this one. I wondered how you were going to describe it. That was well done.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you.
How do you describe it without spoiling the whole thing? But that was done. Yeah.
There is still a key element in there that I didn't spoil, but this is definitely a horrifying, horrible situation book. It is a horror story. I want to say that it felt different to me. It did feel different to me than User. I feel like that's an outlier, that book.
I agree.
This book seemed more more kind of realistic. It seemed like, I'm trying to categorize it. It seemed like it was a true horror story that you could see happening in real life if all the elements were in place that made it so this place existed. I think really good horror movies are when we see people acting how we're afraid we would act in that situation. If man's continued inhumanity to man, and this is man's inhumanity to woman. I felt like the sexual assault aspect of it was the horrifying part of the book. There's no book without it. it seemed not realistic, but it seemed like a it seemed like a horror theme, a new and different kind of horror theme, a town dedicated to the assault of women, which is horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So it succeeded in making me horrified. So it did its job, and I liked it because it made me ill. It didn't make me. It didn't make me angry. It made me ill at the thought that this probably could happen if the circumstances were right. And I just found it genuinely creepy and awful.
I agree. I will start by saying I think the two main characters, I really enjoyed both of them. I think they're two characters we don't see a lot as far as ethnicity and body type. Great representation there.
Right.
Girl with short hair. I mean, they're both gay. Like, that's cool. So we had two interesting, cool teenage characters. Cool. I'm saying cool. I just mean, like, it's cool that we get to see that, right?
Yeah.
And they're starring in this horror story. I left it. I was interested the entire time. There was never a point where I was bored with the story. I wanted to know what was happening. They sprinkled these elements that I didn't think would happen. Like, there's a witch.
Yeah.
You know, there's some supernatural elements I didn't know would be in there.
A little kid witch. She's like little and really old, but she's like a little kid.
I really like the way the story was told. You kind of went back and forth between the two characters, and there were like narration boxes, but it wasn't boring. Because I feel like we can get stuck in that boring. I'm looking around for one, but I don't have any around me. Boring narration. Like, let's say the 90s had some of that, right? There were some from the 80s. Like, it wasn't like that. The way it was told, I don't know. I thought it was unique and interesting the way that the narration boxes were. The art was very different I know this is the Black Label, right?
Yeah.
And specifically, someone asked if it was a Joe Hill book. No, but it's under his line, his Hill House books. So it's not by Joe Hill. I forget who it's by. I don't have the book around me. I wrote it on Hoopla, but
Carmen Maria Machado.
Who did the art?
Danny.
Yeah. The art was just it felt really kind of indie, for lack of a better way to put it, right?
Yeah.
So it was cool to see it, and it's not like mainstream DC, I guess, but it was something different. Because when it started, I was like, what is this art? But then I started to really like it. So I like the art. I thought it was very well done for the creepy element too. The colors worked really well to keep you like knowing that you're reading this horrific book. But I did get to the end and I was like, I don't know how to feel about this book.
Oh, okay.
Like, I didn't hate it. I don't know, but I was stuck. Like, okay, I was interested the entire time. I like these characters. But there were certain elements I did feel that, like, were just kind of thrown in there and we never really got the full, like, I'm trying not to spoil things. The sinkhole element, I feel like that was sort of just sprinkled in real quick, and then it was like, oh, this is happening.
The what element?
The sinkhole element.
Oh, yeah. That was kind of, that was.
Which was horrific, but I feel like it was just thrown in there, and then it was real quick and kind of like, oh, now the book's done. It was like, okay. So there were certain things that I was like, we're throwing a lot here with few page counts, right? Like with, 6 issues? But beyond all that, the fact that I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to talk about this book, because I definitely didn't hate it. I was interested the whole time. Mm-hmm. I think if you can be, like, anyone watching can be okay with reading something this horrific, that is such a real life thing that happens to women all the time. And it's very much talked about and continually talked about the entire time. Like, if you can be okay with that, check it out for yourself, right? at the same time, I was like, hold up, all the women in this town, right? Like, it's crazy. Was that necessary? I don't know. So I don't think I had a problem with it, but I was also kind of like, what are we saying here, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. I did leave it like, I don't even know how I would rate this book. What kind of rate, like, I was interested. I read the whole thing. I didn't hate it, for sure. I don't think I pleasantly felt good about it. Like, I don't think you can.
Right. Well, Mutant Menace actually says it's a horror story that speaks to a very real life horror. Whoops. Sorry, Omar. Okay. I that's why I was interested in what your opinion was on this. I purposely didn't talk to you all this week because I didn't want to know even a hint as to what you thought about it. Because I knew we were going to have complicated feelings about it.
Yeah. And I liked the two characters. I liked their relationship. Like, their friendship was a really great friendship. It was something I feel like we don't see. Because I kept being like, if they're going to make them get together, that's going to be so typical, right? And that didn't happen. There's a spoiler, but I mean, it didn't happen. And how lovely is that, right? We saw a real true friendship between two gay girls where they didn't have to get together. You don't see that a lot. That's awesome. So there were a lot of elements I really liked about it. But I guess just from the natural horror aspect of it, I kind of step away and I'm like, well, I'll never read that again, right? I don't think I'll ever read that again. The skinless guy, I feel like, was also one thing that was kind of thrown in there and never, like, he came back, but like, why? So I was kind of confused by that and why that was happening. I don't know. I still want to read all these Hill House books because it was so weird and interesting. And again, there were elements I really liked about it, and I'm glad it exists for that reason. I think this can be really triggering for a lot of people, though. So if you have any sort of
good point
at all, like, emotional issues with that or like anything like that, steer clear of this. This is not for you. But because it's rough.
Really good point.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. That is definitely a good point. Do I still sound like I'm echoing? Because I heard myself echoing. I should always come down with headphones just in case I start echoing. I don't hear myself echoing now.
I don't hear it either.
Okay, but I did hear myself echoing. And Taylor was saying that I was echoing too. And Hayden, so a lot of people are hearing my echo. Am I echoing now? Am I echoing now? Am I echoing now? Okay, so those were the 3 books we read. Actually, we read 4 Lady Mechanica books. And then The Low Woods and Kent State. So this was 2 emotionally powerful books with some fun steampunk in for to make you feel better about things. I wouldn't have Low Woods or Kent State be the last thing you read before you fall asleep at night.
No. Or if you're already in a bad mood, don't do it.
Yeah. They are, I think because they're both so well written, I think that you will, if you're in a bad spot, that it will affect you. If you're in a bad mood, you should read Lady Mechanica because maybe that'll make you feel better because those are lighthearted investigations that take place with a woman that's practically a cyborg. So,
although she was assaulted too, so there's that.
Well, yeah, I guess so. She had all her
mutilated, really.
Off and yeah. Oh, if I stand up, I'll be Wonder Woman.
Oh. Well, almost. Other way. Yeah. There you go. Nice.
There, right there. Okay. Well, that does it for our show today. We appreciate all our fans that tuned in. Jessica Ashcraft asks, how is American Vampire going for you, Kristen? Did it pick up at all?
Let's see. I think I'm on volume 5. There are some characters I like more than other characters. So definitely, I feel like it picked up. I'm still not blown away by it, but I'm hanging in there. But yeah, there are some characters I really like more than other ones.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I mean, you're giving it a shot.
Yeah.
It's possible it's not your cup of tea.
I don't hate it. Some books are just in the middle for me. So I just don't run into them a lot, I feel like.
Right.
Which I feel like Low Woods is maybe somewhere, I don't know. It's so hard for me because I'm like, I definitely like these elements. Then there's this. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not typically stumped like this from a book. So that alone may make you interested.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering what I feel like that the Low Woods is a book that would get potentially different reactions from different people depending on their life experience, I guess. That's certainly not a book I would have read as a kid. Nothing that challenging was being written. Something like this that's written now, I would say it's a good sign that something this delicate can be written, and I felt like it was written in a respectful way, not a gratuitous way.
That is another thing that makes me be like, okay, maybe I like this more than I thought, because the way that they were talking about it openly, like and especially the one friend kept kind of being like, you need to kind of confront what happened, and like, we need to talk about this. And that's a constant like thread throughout it until the end. And I really did like that. So maybe I really enjoyed it. Like, I think just because of what it's about, right? It has to make you a little hesitant to be like, this was amazing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's like, oh, it's hard. It's really hard. But you're right. Like, it was done in a way that I still think anyone who has any sort of trigger with that, don't go to this. But yeah, it was done with some sensitivity, I think.
Right. Oh, that's okay, Mutant Menace. What you said was good. Okay, well, I don't know what we're going to be doing our next time, but we read and analyzed these books and reviewed them, and first of all, I feel like everybody should read Lady Mechanica because it's fun.
And this, because people need to know about it.
And Kent State, because they need to know about it. I don't know that everybody needs to read Low Woods. You've heard everything we have to say about it, so you'll have to be your own judge.
Analyze what you think you're comfortable with, because it is a sensitive topic.
Yeah. And maybe it's, I don't know, maybe is it something that the more we talk about it, the better off we are? Is it something that's been repressed a lot in the past, and if it comes out into the open, it's good? I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
I think that depends too, right? Because let us bring back user again, right? There are ways that this is done that's not cool and not okay. And that's the thing, right? Is it ever cool? Because we even talked about that. Maybe privately, but we were both kind of like, is this ever necessary? And then we read this book about the entire thing, and it was like, okay, well, and that's another hard element, right? I think we're both kind of struggling with how to even talk about this book, right?
Yeah.
But maybe that alone makes it at least a well-written book.
Yeah. You're right. It's not something that that anybody wants to go around going, "Woo, yay! Everybody read this. It's really fun," because that's not really what it is. But I don't know. It's horrifying, and it's a good book to read if you want to be horrified. I don't
True.
know. So everybody, please hit the like button, like Bobby Keating says. Thank you for saying that, Bobby Keating. And feel free to leave us comments. Maybe you've read some of these books and you have something to say that's a different take on it. We'd be interested in hearing about that. Feel free to subscribe and hit the like button, as I said. And where can we hear you next, Kristen? Where will you be appearing next?
Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Omnibus Collectors Network. That will be the Fangirls Assemble episode with Maddie. So check it out. We read stuff. We're going to talk about it.
Okay.
That's right.
Nice. Some next recommendations for your next reads: The Crow Special Edition and Underwater Welder. I think we already read Underwater Welder?
Yeah, I think we reread it together and talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, it's great. I remember we did. It was recently that we did that one.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. We really loved Underwater Welder. I don't know about The Crow.
Oh, and you can also check out the Comic Slayer on YouTube for Reed and I talking about things and stuff, and comics and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can find me on this channel, OmniDog's Vault, on YouTube, and on Instagram, OmniDogs_Vault. And thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it. All the nice chatters out there and nice viewers. We appreciate everybody. Peace and love. Peace and love.